the Pink Panther from 2006.
Mhm.
The quick log line on this is bumbling Inspector Clouseau must solve the murder of a famous soccer coach and find out who stole the infamous Pink Panther diamond. Directed by Sean Levy, starring Steve Martin, Kevin Kline, and Beyonce, and many other people as well. So I put this movie in firstly just because Steve Martin is such a big hit in my
Mhm.
household, and we've talked about this before.
Oh
And
yeah.
whenever I think of my dad, and there are many things that come to my mind, but the one thing that also comes to my mind is sort of him just laughing out loud. And I think this is one of those movies is so ridiculous
Yeah.
that it's sort of, well, for whatever reason, it makes him laugh so much. Most Steve Martin movies do, but I think this is at the top of that list. And I just have such fond memories of sitting with him and us as a family and just watching this movie and then over and over again, and him reciting lines from the movie.
Oh wow.
After that, all the gags and what have you for days to come, we still do that. So it holds like a special place in my heart in that sense. But as I watched this movie over and over again and grown up sort of with it a little bit, couple of things come to mind. One, I think Steve Martin sort of in his real life, not that I know the person, kind of represents in my mind a bit of an ideal dad,
Mm,
who's just smart and witty and funny, but at the same time kind of goofy and silly, talented, but is not hiding his talent, but is also not wearing it on his sleeve.
right.
Like
Definitely
there's
not
sort of a
arrogant.
coolness to him in that
Mhm.
regard. And that's why he is who he is. So I think there's a little bit of that meta-ness that kind of comes with it. But then you look at this character of Jacques Clouseau, I think it represents this side of my dad, which is a little bit goofy, sometimes a little bit overconfident to make a decision, you know, before thinking through everything. It doesn't happen very often, but there are moments like that. And then, hilarity ensues after, and it's a lot of water for me and my sister and my mom to make fun of him, especially for somebody who's so put together as a general, always makes the right decision. We all look up to him for that.
Uh-huh.
But there are many, many moments where that doesn't happen. And I don't know, there's something about this character that makes me think of that. And yeah, as much as, like you said, we look up to our dads, I think as I've grown older, looking up to somebody is not just about looking up to them for all the right things that they do. I
Mhm.
think there's something to be said about just the silliness or the bad calls or the flaws that people have, and it's not just to learn from, but there's something vulnerable and sweet about that.
Mhm.
After all, our parents and our fathers, no matter what pedestal we put them on, they're also human,
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right.
And as much as my dad can take life and us and doing the right thing seriously, I think it's important that he can laugh at himself and laugh at us, and we can all laugh together as well. So I don't know, this movie, though it's totally ridiculous and silly, I think it represents that for me. Obviously beautifully cast. I think Kevin Kline and Steve Martin are amazing.
Great
uh,
chemistry.
Great chemistry. The French actor whose name I'm forgetting, who's
Jean
just like
Reno.
John
Yeah.
Reno, also incredible. Their dynamic is so amazing. I've watched the original Pink Panther movies too, which are of a different brand, where he's singing 60s and what have you. But I don't know, there's something very sweet and silly about this version, thanks to Steve Martin and the cast. And you're in France, I would never complain about that. So it's a great ride. So yeah, that's my number three, Pink Panther.
Yeah, yeah. This is a film actually I'd never seen. So just to talk about the 60s one. So, and my dad actually, which maybe I should have mentioned this in the intro. Like as folks who maybe have listened to this podcast a lot, have heard me make reference to my dad sort of telling me to watch something, an older film, because it's sort of a classic and I should see it. Peter Sellers and those original Pink Panther films were definitely that too. Like he was like, oh, these are comedy classics, watch these. And I watched them as a kid and thought they were really funny and got into Sellers, definitely thanks to him. And I had never seen this movie just because, even though I love Steve Martin, I was like, they
Yeah.
can't remake the Pink Panther. I'm not gonna I'm not going to watch this. And I was very pleasantly surprised to how well, especially Steve Martin did, is sort of capturing that like arrogant stupidity of what Clouseau and what Sellers does. Like he thinks he knows what he's doing, even though he doesn't, but it's like this, he's putting on an air of like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So it's sort of an innocent arrogance. It's hard to kind of describe it, but Sellers did such a good job at doing that. And that's what I think made those movies so successful for decades. And I think Martin taps into it and brings his own kind of persona into this role and makes it his own. But at the same time, it feels like Sellers in a way. I thought it was, Kevin Kline, like you said, was great. Playing the, a critical role too of like the chief, who they're always like kind of going some good banter back and forth. They have great chemistry. And the plot was, a nice homage to the original with the diamond, but still was very interesting. And I loved the kind of the twist at the end, because you think Clouseau is dumb. Like he's always messing up. He's like, oh, I know how to, I'm the best at everything. Oh yeah. Oh, I know Chinese, like blah, blah, blah. And you're just sort of like, okay, this guy's a fool. And then the plot twist at the end, when like he actually did know Chinese and that actually helps him solve the whole case. I was like, oh, this is great. Like the movie is letting him be a hero in a way that fits into his character. And I just thought that was like hilarious, a funny twist that also was like great, like just in terms of the plot.
Kind of brilliant. Yeah.
It really was.
Brings me back to my dad too. Like even the moments where I've laughed at him later on, I was like, you probably were saying the right thing. I was the silly one.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was great. I mean, some of not every single joke lands. I think the majority of them still do. I think the one weak link was probably Beyonce. Like she tried to be an actress for a while. She was in Gold Member, I think was her first role, the Austin Powers 3 film, which I remember not really liking the film overall and thought she was definitely a weak link. And I doubt she really improved much in this, honestly. Maybe that's why she decided to stick with music. But, overall, like I definitely recommend this this film.
She's not there, a whole lot much.
No.
In some ways, the acting aside, but her personal, real life aura actually lends itself to this movie from, all this time ago in like a different way. Like she doesn't have to do much. She walks on the stage, this person is important and means something. And you can see the world going gaga. And also you would never be suspicious of her because she's sort of become this, light of good or what have you. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's true.
When I first watched it, I didn't even really know who she was much, but so I thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah. So I definitely, if people haven't seen this movie or were like, how can they remake a classic? I'm not going to watch it. I'll watch it. Like I was pleasantly surprised at how good this was. Have you seen the second one? I
do not watch it.
Okay. That's what I've heard. And I don't know if now I should, so I won't then.
I mean, you can watch it honestly on like a Saturday afternoon if you have nothing else to do. You would not be bored, but it just gets stupider. And this movie, like we've said, does like a great job of sort of balancing the stupidity with wit and smarts. It doesn't feel like there's a very thin line, and I think that other movie sort of tips to the other side. Still entertaining because who doesn't want to watch Steve Martin? Of course, I would watch him in anything, but not the same.
Okay, that's good to know. But definitely recommend folks check this out if they're fans of the original, if they've never seen the original, if they like or even don't like Steve Martin. I think it's a very fun and breezy and entertaining movie to check out.
Yeah, I mean the hamburger scene. Oh my gosh,
very funny. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.